Barack Obama left office with more than 100 vacancies on the federal courts, and Donald Trump and the new Republicans in the Senate did not waste any time filling these seats. But who's picking these judges, and what do they have to gain from these appointments? Joining to answer that question is Farron Cousins from the Trial Lawyer magazine. Farron, if you take a look at this case, at this situation, I think 15 years ago on Ring of Fire, we started talking about the idea that the Democrats were paying so much attention to social issues. You know, is this judge good on gender? Is it good on civil rights? Is it good on social issues? And we ignored the fact that the people that were being appointed were the best friends of corporate America, giving them virtually everything. Trump has taken this to a whole new science, hasn't he?
He has, and to be honest, I think it's a little unfair to give all the credit to Trump here. I think most of it is Mitch McConnell. This has been Mitch McConnell's dream for decades now. I mean, ever since the guy came into the Senate back in the 80s. And he found a useful person in Donald Trump, because Trump, again, he's a guy, he didn't come from politics. He doesn't know the judges out there. He doesn't know who's where. He doesn't know the groups. So Mitch McConnell looked at this as a bit of a blank slate. And so Mitch McConnell, through his friends over at the Federalist Society, have just been pumping these judges to Donald Trump, saying this is a good person, here's their qualifications, here's how they're going to help business. Let's go ahead and appoint them. McConnell says, look, I'm going to go back to the Senate. I've got all my folks here ready to vote. We'll get them fast-tracked. You're good to go.
Okay, here's what the Republicans figured out. And they figured it out by the way that the Federalist Society came together. They figured out it doesn't make any difference who the president is. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference who's in Congress. All that matters is, at the end of the day, how is that law, how is that congressional mandate interpreted? Executive order, take it away if we don't like it through the courts. Congressional action, take it away if we don't like it through the courts. So it took the Democrats forever to figure that out. As a matter of fact,
I don't think they're there yet.
I don't think they're there either. I really still don't think they understand this. As a matter of fact, you've got Trump, who's made, 43, 45 appointments just to the appeals court. That's not even talking about what he's done at the trial level. It's been a disaster for consumers. You know, what is your take?
Well, right now, I think we're at 25% of the total makeup of the appellate court is now Trump/Mitch McConnell appointees, who, again, are coming from these pro-business groups. The Federalist Society is the one vetting these people and picking these people. And they're getting their money from the Koch brothers. They're getting their money from all these right-wing foundations that are funded by businesses. And that's why. And to be honest, when we look back at some of the appointments Barack Obama put in there, as you said, yeah, they're great on social issues. They're going to be the best civil rights judges out there. And they're also going to rule with businesses 100% of the time.
A train wreck for consumers.
Right.
I can tell you, even the Obama appointee, the Clinton and Obama, I mean, you know, yeah, there's some great judges there. But if you look at why we evaluate judges, we ought to start thinking about how are they doing on consumer issues, not whether they rule on whether male and female can use the same bathroom. I mean, I'm talking about kitchen table issues, dining table issues that affect whether your child can go to school, whether you're going to have a job. These judges, whether they're Democrat or they're Republican, are horrible on consumer kinds of issues. Now, let me tell you something. Give me your idea of how this has shifted so dramatically. How have the Republicans taken this and they've really made it work for them? I mean, how have they gotten here? What was the difference between what they did and what we saw with Obama?
Well, what the Republicans did was they had the perfect storm. You have the presidency and you have the Senate. House of Representatives doesn't matter when it comes to the courts. Right. And because of that, Mitch McConnell said, listen, we've got a big majority. We're going to change the blue slip rule, which means...
talk about that.
Right. The blue slip rule was where if the judge was from your state and you being the senator from there said, no, I don't like this judge, in the past, traditionally, they would just say, okay, well, it's your state. We won't pick this person.
You could hold it up. You could do whatever you want to.
Mitch McConnell said, nope, that doesn't matter anymore. And because of that, they can now fast track these people. They don't have to get approval from both sides. They've got their big enough majority that everybody can get an up and down vote and go in
50 votes, not 60 votes.
Right.
Yeah.
And because of that, we have seen this fast tracking. And it is because, as you said, Republicans know that the presidency is going to change hands all the time. Senate will, House will. These are lifetime appointments that will never change until that person retires, dies, or gets impeached, which has only happened a handful of times in history.
Okay, quick reminder, Robert Bork, Scalia, they were the heart of the entire federalism movement. They were the people that came out with this nonsense called originalism,
Yeah.
even though they like to say, yeah, this is a good idea. We don't see the Republicans following originalism at all. But here's the point. There's a guy that is Leonard Leo, is a name that comes up a lot. Leonard Leo is the guy that controls the appointments through the Federalist Society. He controls virtually all the appointments we're seeing with Trump. And the truth is, until we're able to get the Democrats to understand the appointments matter even more than the Supreme Court, even more than the presidency, I think we're going to be in the same
we're looking
league.
at, I mean, just real quick to throw a number out there, about 80 cases a year at the Supreme Court, 50,000 decided in these lower courts.
Well
so
put.
you tell me which one is more important.
80 versus 50,000. I'm going with 50,000. Former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger has begun her 10-year prison sentence for the murder of Botham Jean, who Officer Geiger had fatally shot after mistaking his apartment for her own. Back in September of 2018 is when this occurred, but a few wrinkles during court proceedings have raised eyebrows throughout the media. Legal journalist Molly Barrows is here to examine this case a little further. You know, this, honestly, what a weird case.
Yes.
I try, you know, anytime I listen to facts like this, I try to analyze it from both sides. Give me your analysis. It's just a peculiar case.
Well, just to outline the facts for anybody who may be unfamiliar, like you said, last September of last year, she was off duty, but she was still in her uniform. She was headed home to her Dallas apartment complex, heading into what she said she thought was her apartment, but it was a mistake. She was actually one floor off. She lived one floor beneath the apartment that she accidentally walked into, is what she said. And so that apartment belonged to Botham Jean, and she said that the lights were off. He'd been in there watching football. She thought she was in her apartment, and that she shot him because she thought he was a burglar. So it's interesting. They had the guy who lived directly across the hall from the victim testified that he had just met him earlier that day, and he was a nice guy. He'd often heard him singing in his apartment, whether it was gospel songs or, you know, his whatever favorite music was. And he had heard the altercation. He said it sounded like two people who were surprised by seeing each other, essentially, and that he heard them talking at the same time, and then he heard the gunshots.
This young man that was shot was a wonderful person by every standard. I mean,
an accountant, educated,
just a wonderful person. So now we're hearing one of the key witnesses in the case that they were actually shot dead while the case was pending. Tell me what you know.
Actually,
about
not while it was pending, because he testified, and it was he was a key witness in the case itself,
all right.
describing who this guy was, like you said, hearing the altercation. So she was just sentenced, but he was shot to death last Friday night outside a different Dallas apartment complex.
Any connections that they're looking at?
Of course, there are rumors. There's talk in the community. The Dallas prosecutor handling his case, and his name is Joshua Brown, basically said that, you know, he was looking into it. Details are sparse, but that he had only praise for Joshua Brown because he spoke up and testified at the trial, which he said is often difficult to find someone who will speak up in cases like this, especially when victims are black or it affects the minority community. In this case, it was particularly it sparked protests because you have this white police officer who claimed that it was an accident, and she was initially only charged with manslaughter. She walks into the apartment that wasn't her place, an unarmed black man. She's being charged with manslaughter, and the minority community was basically like, "You got to be kidding us! You know, what do we have to do to show you that, you know, Black Lives Matter too," sort of a thing. And so there was a protest, and then she was later charged with charged with murder, and then she was convicted of second degree.
Haven't we seen a lot of that lately? It takes a protest to get the court system to do what they're supposed to do. To get
she
the
was
police,
fired, too.
Yeah, to get the police. She was fired.
Right.
Everything that happened should have happened.
Yes.
But I'm looking at the way the media is handling the sentencing on this. They're saying it's sympathetic, it's forgiving. She's gone away for 10 years.
Yeah, she could have gotten 99,
Yeah,
and she could have gotten as
yeah.
low as 5. So
Right.
the family was very pleased, and going back to the sympathy, the compassion, you know, the victims were black, the judge in this case was black, and there was some criticism for the judge because after she handed out this 10-year sentence, she gave the officer a Bible, and the woman asked, you know, Amber Geiger asked her for a hug, and she said she kind of stood there for a second thinking, this is awkward, and she said that she asked her again, and she said at that point I had to decide, is it my responsibility? This is the judge saying this.
Yeah.
Is what she told reporters. Is it my responsibility? She goes, I decided then that it was my responsibility to be compassionate as well. And the family had also forgiven her.
This family is wonderful. I mean, you go back and look at this story.
It's heartbreaking.
You got this really, really decent young man.
Right.
Terrible incident that takes place. The family forgives her. An open court goes and hugs her. There's a lot of parts to this story that to me, real quickly,
Yes.
what is her best argument on how this happened? What is it that caused her to go and start firing?
You know, she wasn't drunk. Her toxicology reports came back clean. She basically says she was distracted. The prosecution didn't buy it because they said there were several indicators that should have, you know, made her realize that she wasn't in the right spot. He had a red doormat at his door. She didn't have one.
Had she
said
just
her
finished a shift?
She had just come off work. That's why she was still in uniform, but she was off duty. And they think that that's partially why the jury was more willing to convict in this case, because had she been on duty, typically juries are less inclined to second guess an officer's decision in the line of work of when they decide to shoot.
Yeah, this doesn't fall
as
anyway.
you said,
But
didn't
she
fall
had
into that.
finished, was it a night shift that she'd finished?
Yes, she definitely.
Okay.
She'd finished
Come off a
long
night shift, walks into the wrong apartment and opens fire.
Yes.
Terrible story.
Yes.
But I got you. When you watch this story and you understand it, you will love this family. This family.
And
this
as a
young
former
man that is-
prosecutor, it's got to make you feel good to see that there is, because usually things like this will destroy a family.
Oh
so they're
my
trying
God! This
to
is a
keep that from.
terrible, terrible tragedy.
from happening.
Thank you for joining me. Okay.
Yes, thanks, Pat.
Every year, 1 million hernia surgeries are performed in the United States. Unfortunately, some mesh implants that are used in these surgeries have caused complications, including infection and organ damage that led to surgeries to correct those problems. If this has happened to you, learn more about the hernia mesh lawsuit by going online to hernia.law or call us for a free consultation about your legal rights.